I realized something was wrong the moment I heard the way my mother said my name, sharp, rehearsed, like she was bracing for impact before I had even stepped into the room. That was my first clue. The second was the man sitting at our dining table, a stranger in a charcoal suit with a leather briefcase and a face that looked like it had never once cracked into a genuine smile. And the third clue, the one that sank into my stomach like a stone, was the fact that my sister Lily was glowing, genuinely glowing. She sat with her knees tucked under her, twirling a strand of honey blonde hair, while humming one of her influencer jingles under her breath, the same tone she used when she was hiding something big. But none of them compared to the moment my father turned toward me, cleared his throat like he was preparing for a speech, and said the 8 words that detonated the foundation of our family. Your sister deserves it. We're giving her the house. The words echoed in my head before I fully understood them. The house, the lake house, the property our family had owned for generations, the only stable piece of history we had left. The one thing I thought we all agreed would be shared someday, or at the very least, handled fairly. And yet my father said it like he was announcing who would get the last dinner roll. I didn't cry, I didn't shout. I just stood there with my coat still on my fingers, still gripping my car keys, trying to process the way everyone was looking at me, as if my reaction was the final line in a script they had already rehearsed without me. By the time I finally took off my coat, I already knew nothing about this dinner was accidental. My mother waved me toward a chair as if I were interrupting. Ava, dear, sit. We just finalized everything. Finalized. My mother loved that word. It made betrayal sound like paperwork. I sat down, slowly placing my keys on the placemat in front of me. The stranger in the charcoal suit folded his hands, his smile thin and clinical. Dad gestured to him. This is Mr. Grayson. He's helping us through the transfer. Transfer. My pulse ticked once hard enough that I felt it in my throat. Lily let out a soft squeal and leaned forward. Ava, you should have seen the paperwork. There were like 15 pages, but I signed so fast because I just knew it was right. This feels like my next chapter, you know. My eyes snapped to her. You signed something. She blinked in confusion, tilting her head. Well, yeah, Dad said it was perfectly fine, and I should just trust him. My mother smoothed her blouse with the same calm she used in church. It's been such a stressful process, sweetheart. You should be grateful we didn't want to trouble you with the details. I stared at her. Trouble me? With the details of transferring our family's largest asset. My father cleared his throat again. He always did that before saying something awful. We've thought about this long and hard. Lily is the one who will build a family someday. She needs the stability. Well, Ava, you're independent. You don't even like living out here in the country anymore. It didn't matter that I had moved 40 minutes away from my job. It didn't matter that independence wasn't a flaw. None of that mattered in the narrative they had crafted while I wasn't looking. What about fairness? I asked quietly. What about discussing it with me first? My mother's smile tightened. This isn't about fairness, it's about practicality. And there it was, the polite dagger. Mr. Grayson cleared his throat, interrupting the rising tension. If we may proceed, I have a few final signatures needed for the deed filing. He slid a packet of papers toward Lily, who picked up a pen with all the enthusiasm of a kid signing up for summer camp. But as she bent over the page, something flickered in the corner of my eye, a signature line beneath hers. And beneath that, in faint print, successor responsibility acknowledgement, beneficial interest transfer. My stomach twisted. That made no sense. Why is there a successor line, and why does it have my name printed under it? My father stiffened. My mother looked at Mr. Grayson in alarm. He coughed lightly and shifted in his chair. That page isn't relevant for you, he said with a rehearsed smile. It's just standard language. I leaned in. Standard language for what Lily stopped mid-signature and glanced between us. Should I not sign it? My mother quickly placed a hand over Lily's wrist. Sign it, darling. There's nothing to worry about. But there was something to worry about. There was everything to worry about. I reached forward and gently pulled the packet closer, scanning the bottom half. My father's handwriting, distinctive angular, was on a previous page, a signature that didn't quite match his natural flow. And mine, printed faintly as if waiting for a pen that would never touch it. "Ava," Dad said slowly, "stop overthinking. You're making this harder than it needs to be." I swallowed. "Did you sign something for me?" He didn't answer. June did. Of course not. She lied too quickly. The room tightened around me. The air felt thinner. "What exactly did you sign?" I asked Lily, my voice low. "I don't know," she whispered. "Dad told me not to read every line. He said it would just confuse me." "Of course he did." Mr. Grayson stood abruptly, smoothing his suit jacket. "The transfer is entirely lawful. Let's not derail this over small misunderstandings." Little did he know he had chosen the wrong daughter to call misunderstandings. My father grabbed the packet back, flipped quickly through the pages, and signed the final line with a flourish. Then he pushed the pen toward Lily again. There, he said, his tone final. "Let's get this done." Something inside me hardened. Wait. But no one waited. Lily eagerly signed the last page, smiling in triumph. There, she said, "I'm officially a homeowner." She wasn't. Not legally, not yet. Something about the way Mr. Grayson snapped the folder shut told me even he wasn't confident. My mother clasped her hands. "Now, Ava, don't make this about you. Lily deserves a head start. She's building her brand. She has sponsors now." Lily beamed. 2 beauty companies and a dog food subscription box. I stared at them, my family, my blood, and felt myself detached from the moment, watching as if through glass. I had been the responsible one, the steady one. The daughter who handled emergencies, read the fine print, paid bills on time. And somehow in their minds that meant I did not deserve the same security they were handing Lily on a silver platter. My father poured himself another drink, the ice clinking against the glass. "This is what's best for everyone." I didn't respond. I just stared at the stranger in the suit as he packed up his leather briefcase. He paused before closing it. "One final note," he said politely. "Until the deed record is fully processed, all existing obligations connected to the property remain unchanged." My mother turned to me with a bright, rehearsed smile. "Which means, sweetheart, we'll need you to keep covering the mortgage this month." I blinked. "You're giving Lily the house and still expecting me to pay the mortgage?" My father gave a dismissive wave. "Just for a little while. Don't make this difficult," Lily added with her usual oblivious sweetness. "It's only temporary, Ava. And honestly, you always handle the mortgage stuff. You're so good at it." My hands went cold. Something in my expression must have shifted because Mr. Grayson glanced at me as if he expected me to object. If he was hoping I wouldn't, he underestimated me. "Did you tell the lender you're transferring the deed?" I asked. The silence was answer enough. My mother laughed lightly, the sound brittle. "Why would we? They don't need to know yet." My heart knocked once loud and heavy. "You transferred a mortgaged property without notifying the lender," I said, voice barely above a whisper. My father snapped, "Don't take that tone with us." The stranger's briefcase clicked shut. I stared at all of them, Lily with her notebook full of sponsorship ideas, my mother with her tight smile, my father pretending to be in control, and felt something inside me crack open. Not pain, not betrayal, clarity. This wasn't an impulsive decision. This was orchestrated. This was layered. This was the culmination of conversations, meetings, documents, and signatures I had never been allowed to see. Lily leaned back, stretching. Wow, I feel like a real grown-up now. I pushed my chair back and stood. My mother frowned. "Where are you going?" "We haven't even served dinner." "I'm leaving," I said. Dad scoffed. "Oh, for God's sake, Ava." I cut him off with a calmness that surprised even me. "No, you've made your decision. Now I'm making mine." I picked up my coat, slid my keys into my pocket, and walked out of the house before anyone could stop me. I didn't slam the door. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't owe them theatrics. My car door closed with a soft thud. Rain began to fall against the windshield. I sat there for a full minute, letting reality settle around me like dust. My family had just handed my sister the house and handed me the bill. But the moment I turned the key in the ignition, the anger crystallized into something sharper, something colder. They thought this was the end of the conversation. They had no idea it was only the beginning. The next morning I woke up to the kind of quiet that didn't feel peaceful. It felt suspended, as if the world was holding its breath around me. For the first time in years, I didn't check my email. I didn't open the mortgage app. I didn't even reach for the spreadsheet I usually updated every Thursday before breakfast. I just sat there on the edge of my bed, staring at the sunlight pushing through the blinds, while my mind replayed the previous night like bad surveillance footage. Your sister deserves it. We're giving her the house. We still need you to cover the mortgage. The 3 sentences looped until they blurred into one nauseating truth. They had already decided I wasn't part of this family's future, but I was still expected to bankroll it. I finally stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a cup of coffee I didn't even want. The bitter smell usually pulled me out of whatever fog I was in. Today it barely touched me. I had just taken my first sip when my phone buzzed with a preview of a text from Mom. Morning, sweetheart. Mortgage is due Monday. Don't forget to send it in. Lily has a big week ahead, her first homeowner vlog. Be supportive. I set my mug down so quickly it sloshed over the rim. She wasn't even pretending anymore. Not apology, not acknowledgement, not even a pause after detonating a grenade in the middle of our family. Be supportive. I stared at the words until the letters blurred. The audacity wasn't shocking anymore, it was insulting. For years I had been the one who processed the mortgage payments, monitored interest changes, negotiated the refinance that saved them $800 a month, and absorbed every late fee when Mom would forget to transfer her half. I had built my entire financial life around being the fallback system for their chaos, and overnight, that responsibility had turned into a demand. I wiped the spilled coffee off the counter, took a long breath, and told myself I wouldn't respond until I had something better than anger to say. My phone buzzed again. A second text from Mom. Longer this time. Dad and I talked more last night. We are disappointed by how reactive you were. Lily was hurt. We expect you to show maturity today. Please confirm you will cover the payment so she can move forward. Move forward. As if her influencer home tour content mattered more than the stability of the person who had been paying for the roof over her head. I opened the fridge, grabbed a carton of eggs, and nearly crushed it in my hand. I wasn't reactive last night. I was blindsided, not even blindsided, ambushed. And the fact that they took Lily's emotional temperature more seriously than mine told me everything I needed to know about where I fell on their family hierarchy. I forced myself to sit down at the small table by the window. The air felt heavy with unfinished fury. I needed to think, strategize, not react emotionally the way they had accused me of doing. After 10 minutes of staring at nothing, I grabbed my keys. I couldn't stay in the silence of my apartment anymore. Not today. I drove with the windows cracked, letting the cold air hit my face while my mind churned through every detail of last night, every expression, every sentence, every missing piece I hadn't noticed in the moment. Halfway across town, I turned toward a quiet neighborhood near the river. If I couldn't sort through my thoughts at home, I would do it at my favorite place in the world, to think Riverside Park. It was empty enough on weekday mornings that I could walk the entire mile loop without seeing more than a couple of joggers and dog walkers. Today the path was wet with dew, the sky muted with a soft gray haze. I shoved my hands deep into my jacket pockets and walked without purpose, the gravel crunching under my shoes. As I reached the old stone bridge, my phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I did. This time it was my father. Ava, let's not drag this out. You've always handled the finances responsibly. Please just do your part and stop creating unnecessary tension. This is a family decision. Family decision. A decision I wasn't included in. A decision that locked me into the role of silent funder. The anger simmered low, controlled, but sharper than usual. A jogger ran past me, jolting me back into my body. I realized I had stopped walking without noticing. I leaned against the stone rail, the air cold against my cheeks, and let the river fill the silence. Last night, something in me had cracked. This morning, something in me was rearranging itself. My family had always underestimated one thing, the thing they shouldn't have: my ability to plan. I wasn't impulsive like Lily. I didn't make decisions based on mood swings or the promise of internet fame, and I certainly didn't sign 30-page legal documents without reading every line. I took one last breath of cold morning air, pushed off the railing, and walked back toward my car with a strange clarity settling into my bones. If they wanted me to keep paying the mortgage, they were forgetting something crucial, something I had never said out loud. My name wasn't on the mortgage, theirs was. I had paid it for years, yes. But legally, I didn't owe them a cent. They had assumed my sense of obligation would override logic. That had been true once, not anymore. I drove straight to work, my calm, tidy office at the Community Development Agency, where I analyzed housing data and helped low-income families navigate predatory lending traps. My coworkers always joked that I had the brain of an accountant and the instincts of a detective. Today I felt like something else entirely. Mara, my closest friend at the office, looked up from her desk. "Whoa, you look like someone just told you the earth is hollow." I slid into my chair and blew out a long breath. "My parents gave Lily the lake house last night." She blinked. "Wait, the actual house, the one your grandparents built?" "Yep. Without telling you, yep. And, let me guess, they still want you to pay the mortgage I finished." Mara's jaw dropped. "Oh, absolutely not. That is no, you are not doing that." I rubbed my temples. I'm done." She nodded slowly. "Okay. Good." "But if they did something shady with the deed transfer, they did," I said flatly. "Then you need to find out exactly what." I already knew that, and I knew precisely what step came next. During my lunch break, I drove downtown to the county records office. The building was beige and windowless, a place that smelled like old paper and faint mildew, but to me it was a vault of truth. I headed straight for the clerk's desk. "I need to look up any pending deed filings for the property at 942 Shoreline Drive," I said, keeping my tone neutral. The clerk typed slowly, squinting at the screen through thick glasses. After a moment, she frowned. "Huh. There's a file started," she said. "Not processed yet." "Started," I repeated. She nodded. "But it's odd. Looks like incomplete documentation. Some signatures are mismatched. And there's a missing consent form from the lender. That's required when a mortgaged property changes ownership." I felt a pulse of cold satisfaction. Exactly what I suspected. "Can I see the packet?" I asked. She slid a thin folder across the counter. Inside were scanned copies of the documents Lily and my parents had signed. My father's signature wobbled on one page as if he'd signed in a hurry or under stress. Lily's signature looked bubbly and proud, each looped letter dotted with unnecessary flair. And on several pages where the lender consent section should have been, there were blank spaces. Blank spaces. Missing required attachments. Unacknowledged transfers. They had no idea how catastrophic that could become. I closed the folder carefully. "Thank you," I said. "No problem," the clerk replied. "You might want to remind whoever's handling this that the county rejects incomplete transfers. They can't legally move forward without full lender approval." Oh, I would remind them, just not the way she imagined. Back in my car, I let the folder rest on the passenger seat. For a moment, I just stared at it. The proof of their recklessness. The proof that my parents were so determined to give Lily everything that they hadn't even bothered to ensure they were doing it legally, and they still wanted me to pay the mortgage. I could feel something shifting inside me, something precise and calculated, like gears locking into place. When I got home later that afternoon, there were 3 new texts waiting for me. "Mom, please confirm payment." "Lily is planning her first house tour video." "Dad, you're being dramatic. Handle your responsibilities." "Lily, Ava, please don't make this weird. I already told my followers I'm a homeowner," I typed slowly, deliberately. "I won't be paying the mortgage this month, or any month after this." Direct all questions to the new owner. I hit send. All 3 messages turned blue immediately. Then silence. A silence so deep it felt like an inhale before a scream. 5 minutes later, my phone lit up with an incoming call. Dad! I didn't answer. He called again. I let it ring. Then Mom. Then Lily. Then Dad again. They didn't realize it yet, but this was the moment the power dynamic shifted. Not when they gave Lily the house. Not when they expected me to keep supporting them. But now, when I finally stopped. The sun was setting by the time the calls slowed. I made myself dinner, washed the dishes, and sat on my couch with the quiet hum of the refrigerator filling the air. It wasn't peace, exactly, but it was something close, maybe the absence of dread. At 9:30, the messages started again. Ava, answer the phone. We need to talk now. Do not ignore this. Call us back immediately. I didn't move. Instead, I walked to my desk, opened my laptop, and began typing an email to someone I had hoped I wouldn't need again. A real estate attorney I trusted. Someone who didn't flinch when families detonated their own lives and left the paperwork behind. My email was short. I need a consult. Urgent. Potential unlawful deed transfer and lender violation. Call me in the morning. I clicked send, closed the laptop, and switched my phone to airplane mode. For the first time in my adult life, I let my family's chaos exist without rushing in to contain it. And as I turned off the lights and walked to my bedroom, one truth settled into my bones. They had taken the house from me. But they had no idea what I had just taken back. Control. I woke to the vibration of my phone rattling against the nightstand like it was trying to claw its way into the room. For one disoriented second, I thought it was my alarm. Then I realized it was ringing and ringing hard, over and over without pause. I rolled over, still half asleep, and saw the missed call counter. 19. All from my parents or Lily. The barrage had started at 6:12 a.m. It was now 7:03. The moment I turned airplane mode off, the calls came again, stacked so tightly it felt like being shoved into a corner. I let it ring. I brushed my teeth, tying my hair back while the phone buzzed angrily from across the room. I poured cereal. I fed the neighbor's cat through the window like I always did when Mrs. Calder traveled. My parents hated being ignored more than anything. They read silence as rebellion and rebellion as an invitation to escalate. So I expected the calls. I even expected the texts. But I didn't expect the voicemail that came at 7:14. My father's voice cracking with something I'd never heard from him before. Not anger. Fear. Ava, pick up. There's a problem. A serious one. This isn't funny. Call me back immediately. I replayed it, twice. It didn't sound like the usual guilt trip attempt. It sounded like something was unraveling much faster than they anticipated. I didn't call back. Instead, I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and wrote out a list of questions I needed answered. What exactly had my parents signed? Had Mr. Grayson filed incomplete documents on purpose? Did the lender know anything? What was the legal exposure for an unapproved transfer I didn't trust my emotions to lead? I trusted information. At 9:00 sharp, my attorney called. Ava, he greeted quietly. Walk me through everything. I did every detail of the dinner, the signatures, the county clerk's comments, the messages afterward. He didn't interrupt except once when I mentioned the missing lender consent documents. That's a violation, he said immediately. A small one, I asked? No, he replied. A major one. It could trigger a due-on-sale clause. I leaned back in my chair. Which means what exactly? His tone sharpened. Which means the lender has the legal right to call the entire remaining balance of the mortgage due. Immediately. In full. The full weight of that hit me like a slow-moving train. So the mortgage wouldn't just be my parents' monthly problem anymore. No, he said. It would be a different kind of problem, one they're not prepared for. My fingers drummed the table. What happens if they can't pay that full amount? Foreclosure proceedings? He paused. Usually within 30 days of non-compliance. My breath caught not in pity but in astonishment. My parents had walked into a legal minefield with blind confidence. They transferred a mortgaged property to my sister like it was a Christmas gift, without notifying the lender, without completing the proper forms, and without reading a word of what they were signing, all while expecting me to keep paying as if nothing had changed. Could they fix it? I asked. In theory, he said, but it would require the lender agreeing to retroactively approve the transfer. And lenders almost never approve transfers between family members unless the recipient has significant financial stability. Lily, financial stability. The two concepts didn't even belong in the same sentence. My attorney continued, I'll draft a formal information request to the lender, but Ava, his voice lowered, prepare yourself. Once this starts, they might blame you, even though you didn't cause it. That part I was prepared for. My family had rewritten history so many times that blaming me for gravity itself wasn't out of character. When the call ended, my phone lit up again. This time it was a text from Lily. Ava P.'s answer. Dad is freaking out. They said something about the bank. What did you do? I wiped a hand across my face. What did I do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They had done this to themselves. At work, I tried to focus on the backlog of grant applications, but my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. By noon, I had 37 missed calls. By 1 o'clock, 42. At 1:26, Lily finally sent the text that told me exactly how desperate things had become. Ava, the bank, emailed Dad. They said there's a breach. They said something about a full balance due. Dad is yelling. Mom is crying. Call me, please. The words barely fit on the screen. I stood from my desk so fast that my chair hit the wall. My coworker Mara looked over sharply. Is everything okay? I blinked at her in a daze. It started. The room felt too small, the air too warm, the implications too large. But I wasn't scared. I wasn't even angry. What I felt was clarity. For the first time, the consequences my parents had always magically avoided were finally catching up to them. Not because I wished them harm, not because I retaliated, but because they had made reckless choices, and consequences didn't care whose fault they preferred. I stepped outside into the cold afternoon air. My phone vibrated again, my father's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, another message popped up. If you don't fix this, Ava, we will lose the house. You will be responsible for destroying our family. There it was. The rewrite, the blame, the emotional weapon they had sharpened for years. But then another text came right after, we need the payment today. The bank won't talk to us until everything is current. And a third, your sister is in tears. Be a decent human being. A decent human being. I laughed aloud on the sidewalk, startling a man walking his dog. I had paid that mortgage for years. I had sacrificed travel nicer apartment savings meant for my own future. I had been the safety net for people who never noticed the holes in the floor. And one boundary, one refusal to be siphoned dry, and suddenly I wasn't decent. My attorney emailed me just before 3 o'clock. Subject lender response. Expected tonight or tomorrow morning. I felt a calm I hadn't felt in days. It was happening. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. At 4:02 p.m., as I sat in my office reviewing a data set, my phone buzzed not with a call but with a video message. From Lily. That alone was strange. Lily never sent videos unless she was trying to promote something. I hesitated, then tapped play. The video shook like her hands were trembling. She was in her childhood bedroom, pink walls, soft fairy lights, glittery decor she never grew out of. Her mascara was smeared. She looked pale, panicked, nothing like the confident influencer face she showed the world. Ava, she whispered, glancing over her shoulder as if someone might hear. I don't know what to do. Mom and Dad are freaking out. They think... Her voice cracked. They think you're doing this on purpose. Her lower lip quivered. But I know you wouldn't. Right. You wouldn't want me kicked out before I even move in. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Just call them. Please. They're saying horrible things. And Dad, he's yelling so much. I don't understand what's happening. I thought it was just paperwork. I didn't know any of this was legal stuff. She sniffed again, eyes red-rimmed. Please, Ava. Please don't let them lose the house. The video ended. I sat frozen, staring at the thumbnail of her tear-streaked face. The emotional manipulation had always come from my parents, never from Lily. Lily, in all her ignorance and selfishness, wasn't cruel. She was just used to things being easy, for her. Because someone else, usually me, made it easy, and suddenly she was realizing that easy wasn't guaranteed. I replayed the video. Once. Twice. She looked like a child asking someone to turn the monsters in her closet into dust. I put my phone down slowly. I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her harm. But I also wasn't going to rescue her from her own choices. Not again. At 5:30, my attorney called. Ava, he said, his tone brisk. The lender updated the account status. My heart pounded once heavy. They have officially flagged your parents' deed transfer as an unauthorized change. They are initiating an acceleration review, meaning the entire mortgage balance could become due as early as tomorrow. I let out a long, steady breath. Of course my parents would blame me. Of course they would insist I fix it. Of course they would accuse me of betrayal. But this wasn't my doing. This was theirs. When I got home that evening, I turned on the lights, made myself pasta, and set my phone face down on the counter while it buzzed and buzzed and buzzed. At 8:47 p.m., I finally picked it up and scrolled through the texts. Dad, answer the damn phone. Dad, fix this, Mom. The lender is threatening foreclosure. Ava, you need to pay now. Mom, if you cared about this family, you'd stop this. Mom, your father is having chest pains. Lily, Ava, I'm scared. Please tell me what to do. Dad, if we lose this house, it is on you. Then, the final message from Dad, the bank said, this started because of you. I stared at the words, feeling something inside me. Settle, not break, not crack, but settle. They had no idea how wrong they were. Not yet. But they would. Because tomorrow, when the lender's official notice arrived, they would discover the truth. This had nothing to do with me refusing to pay. This was about what they had signed, what they had ignored, and what they had broken. I set my phone down, gently walked to the window, and looked out at the quiet street below. The wind pushed the branches against the lamppost, casting restless shadows across the pavement. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was the moment before the tide pulled back. The moment before everyone realized just how far the consequences would reach. I locked my door, turned off the lights, and whispered to the empty room. They wanted me to keep paying. But soon, they would be paying attention. By the time the sun rose the next morning, the tension in the air felt almost electric, like the atmosphere right before a thunderstorm. I hadn't slept well. My dreams had been chaotic flashes of signatures, blank forms, and my parents' voices twisting into demands I couldn't escape. When I finally gave up on sleep, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the wall while my phone buzzed endlessly on the nightstand. I didn't check it, not yet. I needed a moment to be a person before I became their scapegoat again. At 8:30, I finally picked up my phone. 26 missed calls, more than 50 texts. But one notification stood out, a new email from the lender. My pulse quickened. Subject: notice of potential breach. Action required. I opened it. It was written in the calm, ruthless language of corporate enforcement. A detailed review of recent activity related to the property at 942 Shoreline Drive indicated an unapproved ownership transfer and incomplete documentation. The email ended with a line that made my breath catch. We will be issuing a formal notice of acceleration within 24 hours, pending borrower response. It was happening, officially. I reread the email twice, then forwarded it to my attorney with a single line. Here it is. As I set my phone down, my hands trembled, not with fear, but with something sharper, something steadier. Validation. I wasn't imagining the danger. I wasn't overreacting. The consequences were real and they were coming. The knock on my door came so suddenly that I flinched. 3 sharp, rapid hits. Not neighborly, not casual. I peeked through the peephole. My mother, my father, and Lily. All 3 looked exhausted. My mother blotchy and puffy, my father tight-jawed with suppressed rage, and Lily pale with streaks of smeared mascara. I closed my eyes for one brief second, inhaled, and unlatched the door. My father shoved past me the moment it opened. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. My mother followed her voice high and brittle. "Ava, the bank emailed us last night. They said they detected a breach. They said there's a balance due. We don't understand any of this." Lily hovered near the doorway, wringing her hands. "I didn't know it would turn into this," she whispered. I stepped back, keeping distance between us. "You signed a property transfer on a mortgaged house without lender approval. That's what's going on." My father spun toward me, nostrils flaring. "Don't you take that tone with me. We wouldn't be in this mess if you had just done your part." "My part," I repeated. "What part is that, Dad, paying for a house you no longer own? A house you gave away without telling me?" A flush of red crept up his neck. "Don't twist this. You know we counted on you. You know you were supposed to cover the mortgage." "Why?" I asked. "Because you decided I should. Because Lily deserves things I don't." My mother raised a shaking hand to her chest. "Ava, please, we don't have time for your resentment. Right now, we need to focus on fixing this." I almost laughed. Resentment. As though this was about emotions instead of legal fallout. They gathered in my living room like a tribunal collapsing onto the couch as if they owned the place. I remained standing. My father rubbed his temples. "The bank is threatening to call the entire loan due. Do you understand what that means?" "Yes," I said evenly. "I understand exactly what it means." He looked up sharply. "Then why aren't you doing anything? You're the one who deals with them. You're the one who handles this stuff. Just call them and tell them to stop." I stared at him, stunned by the simplicity of the demand. As if this was a customer service error. As if consequences could be reversed by tone alone. "I can't stop a legal process," I said. "You broke the contract." My mother leaned forward, her face tense. "Sweetheart, be reasonable. Just make the payment. Once it's current, the bank will calm down and this will all go away." "It won't," I said. "Not this time." My father slammed his palm against his knee. "Why not? You've always handled it before." The truth slipped out of me before I could stop it. "Because it's not my responsibility." My mother stiffened. "How dare you say that after everything we've done for you?" I stared at her, speechless. Everything they'd done for me. What exactly was that? The list in my head was short and painful. I forced my voice to remain steady. "I've paid your mortgage for years. I've bailed you out of late fees. I've managed every emergency. I've sacrificed my own goals and savings to stabilize you. And when you decided I wasn't part of this family anymore, you still expected me to pay for the privilege." They blinked, stunned into silence. Lily finally spoke, her voice timid. "Ava, we just thought you were better with money." And I really didn't know the forms meant anything big. I looked at her, my sister, who lived in a world of filters and sponsorship deals, who believed everything important could be simplified into a caption. "You signed your name to a legal transfer," I said quietly. "This isn't an unboxing video. It's real." She wilted, her lip trembling. For one second, guilt pinched my chest. Then I remembered her laughter last night, swinging the house keys like a prize ribbon. My father leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "The bank said someone submitted an inquiry on our account yesterday morning. They said that's what triggered the review. Was that you?" I didn't flinch. "Yes." His eyes narrowed with betrayal. My mother gasped softly. Lily covered her mouth. "So you did do this," he said, voice low and dangerous. "No," I said. "Your actions caused this." I confirmed it. He stood abruptly, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You want us to lose this house. You want us to suffer." "I want accountability," I said. Something this family has never practiced, he scoffed. Don't moralize to me. You're punishing us. Punishing, I repeated. No, I just stopped saving you. My mother exhaled a sharp breath. We don't have time for your pride, Ava. The house will be taken, and Lily. Her voice cracked. Lily will lose everything, her plans, her future, her life. I raised an eyebrow. Her life depends on a house she doesn't own legally and can't afford. My mother's eyes flooded. You don't understand, she said, voice breaking. She's fragile. She's not like you. You're strong. You're capable. You'll be fine. In those words, in their naked truth, I saw the entire blueprint of how they had parented us. Lily deserved protection. I deserved burden. Lily needed support. I needed to serve. The roles had been assigned so long ago that my mother couldn't even hear the imbalance. I crossed my arms. Mom, your belief that I'll be fine is exactly why you expect me to fix everything. My father stepped closer, towering over me. If you don't fix this, you will regret it. You hear me? A familiar fear tugged at my throat. Old reflexes told me to apologize, to back down, to smooth things over. But fear was no longer the currency he could buy obedience with. I lifted my chin. Threats won't change anything. For a moment his face twisted rage, then hurt, then something like confusion. He didn't know how to handle a daughter who wasn't afraid of him. The room fell silent. Finally, Lily whispered, Ava, we could lose the house tomorrow. You won't, I said quietly. Not tomorrow. My mother exhaled shakily. So you'll pay? No, I said. But the process won't finish tomorrow. You'll have time. Their faces collapsed again. We don't want time, my father snapped. We want you to fix this. I walked to the door and opened it. You need to leave. My mother's breath caught. Ava, I'm not discussing this further, I said firmly. You made your choices. Now you're facing the consequences. My father stared at me like he didn't recognize me. A slow, eerie realization settled in his eyes. He had lost control of me. Maybe forever. Finally, they filed out, my mother crying softly. My father stiff and silent, Lily shaking as she pulled her coat tight. Before she stepped through the doorway, Lily paused. Ava, are you really not going to help? I met her eyes. Not this time. Her shoulders sagged. She slipped outside. I closed the door quietly behind them. Then I leaned against it, my hands trembling. Not with uncertainty, with something like release. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't the buffer between my family and the world. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their silent accountant who made problems disappear. I was just me. My phone dinged an email notification. My attorney had sent a single line, "The notice of acceleration is confirmed. It will be issued today." I stared at the words. Today, the storm was here. And for once in my life, I wasn't the one getting drenched. The notice of acceleration arrived at 2:11 p.m. sharp. Not by mail, not by phone, by email, cold, formal, and devastatingly clear. Subject: official notice of loan acceleration. Immediate action required. I sat alone in my office at work when it hit my inbox, the fluorescent lights flickering above me, as if the building itself sensed what was coming. The message outlined everything in sterile bullet points: the unapproved transfer, the breach of contract, the full remaining mortgage balance due in 30 days, and the projected foreclosure timeline. At the bottom was a line in bold: failure to remit full balance within the required time frame will initiate legal proceedings against all listed borrowers. That last part made my stomach tighten. Listed borrowers, plural, both my parents. And if the deed transfer had been processed far enough, possibly Lily too. I read the email twice more slowly, methodically, letting the reality settle into place. I had known this was coming, but seeing it in writing made everything feel heavier, more final, like a guillotine suspended in the air. By the time I looked up, the office had emptied. Most of my coworkers had already left for the day. Outside my cubicle window, dusk was staining the sky a deep purple. I forwarded the email to my attorney with a single line. They won't believe it came from the bank. Prepare the next step. Then I stood, grabbed my coat, and walked out of the building, letting the cool evening wind slap my face awake. I needed the sting. By the time I reached my car, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Not with calls, they'd finally stopped when I stopped answering, but with texts. Dozens. From Dad, Mom, Lily. Dad, what did you tell the bank? Dad, they sent us a demand for the full balance. Dad, you caused this. You fix it, Mom. Ava, this isn't funny. Your father is sick over this. He says he's going to talk to the lender directly. Mom, you need to call them and clarify. This is a misunderstanding. Lily, I don't get it. Why would they call the whole loan? That makes no sense, Ava. Just tell them you didn't mean it. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to the store, picked up frozen ravioli and a bottle of mid-range wine, then went home and took my time making dinner, savoring the one space where no one expected anything from me. I had just sat down to eat when my phone buzzed again, not with a text, but with a video call from Lily, and then another, and another. I let all three go unanswered. A few minutes later, a text came in, Ava PL's answer. They're fighting. Dad is yelling at Mom. Mom is yelling at me. The bank email said the balance is due in full. I don't know what to do. For a moment, the old instinct tugged at me. Step in, smooth things over, stabilize the chaos. But I didn't move. Instead, I took a sip of wine and let the warmth settle into my chest. This wasn't my chaos anymore. I cleaned my dishes, dried them neatly, and was about to turn in early when something slammed into my front door so hard I thought it might crack. I froze. Then it happened again. A pounding. Heavy. Wild. Ava, my father's voice roared through the door. Open this door, right now. My stomach dropped, but not from fear. From exhaustion. The kind that came from carrying generations of entitlement and finally putting it down. I walked to the door, but I didn't open it. I pressed my palm against the wood, grounding myself. You need to leave, I said through the barrier. No, he barked. You're going to fix this. We are not going anywhere until you do. I heard my mother's voice behind him, shrill with panic. Ava, sweetheart, please be reasonable. Your father is in distress. Then Lily crying. Ava, please. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I closed my eyes and inhaled, slowly, deeply. Then I unlocked the top latch but kept the chain on and cracked the door 2 inches. The hallway light spilled across their faces. My father looked like a man whose world was collapsing because it was. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw clenched tight enough to snap. My mother's face was puffy and streaked with mascara. Lily stood behind them, arms wrapped around herself, shoulders trembling. What do you want? I asked quietly. My father slammed his hand against the wall. The bank said someone initiated an inquiry on the account. Someone gave them a reason to look deeper. They said you did it. I did, I said. My mother gasped. Lily covered her mouth. My father's voice cracked. Why would you do that to us? I didn't flinch. Because you transferred a mortgaged house without understanding the consequences. We did what was right for the family, he shot back. No, I said calmly. You did what was convenient. My mother leaned closer to the crack in the door. Ava, please. They said they could foreclose in 30 days. 30 days. Do you want us out on the street? I stared at her. You put yourselves there, Lily sobbed. Ava, I swear I didn't know what signing meant. I thought it was, I don't know, paperwork. Dad said it wasn't a big deal. I pinned her with my gaze. You accepted a house without asking a single question. That's the definition of reckless. She flinched like I had slapped her. My father stepped forward, voice low. You have one chance to fix this. Call the bank. Tell them you made a mistake. Tell them you'll take responsibility for the loan. I stared at him in disbelief. You want me to personally assume the balance of a mortgage you gave away? I asked. Yes, he barked. Yes. Because you're the only one who can. Lily can't afford it. Your mother and I are too old to begin again. You owe this to us. I owe you nothing, I said. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. My father's face twisted into something dark, something unfamiliar. "You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you." "Stop," I said sharply. He froze. I had never spoken to him that way, never interrupted, never held the ground beneath my feet. "All you ever did," I continued quietly, "was expect me to sacrifice so you didn't have to." My mother's chin quivered. "Ava, please. If you love us, don't let them take our home." I met her eyes. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have given it away." She let out a strangled sound covering her mouth. Behind them, the elevator dinged someone on another floor heading home. The hallway suddenly felt too small for their grief, too tight for their emotions to fit inside. My father straightened, chest heaving. "Is this your revenge making your family beg?" "No," I said. "This is me stepping out of the role you forced me into." His voice dropped to a hush. "If we lose that house, it will be because of you." "No," I repeated softly. "It will be because of you." His eyes flicked to the chain on my door, the last barrier between us. For one terrified moment, I thought he might try to break in out of sheer desperation. But then, something in him broke. Not violently, quietly. His shoulders sagged, his jaw loosened. He took a single step back as if suddenly unsure of his footing. My mother grabbed his arm, whispering, "Marcus, let's go. Let's just go." He didn't argue. But before turning away, he said in a hoarse voice, "If you don't help us, Ava, you are no daughter of mine." The words hit the wood of my door like a physical blow, but they didn't hit my heart, at least not the way he intended. Something inside me hardened instead. Not bitterness, not cruelty, finality. I looked right at him and said, "You made that true long before today." He froze in place. My mother made a choking sound. Lily let out a sob. They turned and walked down the hall, my father first, shoulders squared in pride even as his world collapsed, my mother clutching her purse like a lifeline, Lily trailing behind, wiping mascara with trembling fingers. I closed the door softly, then locked every latch. And for a long moment I just stood there in the quiet, feeling the weight of every year I'd spent carrying them finally slide off my shoulders. I wasn't free. Not yet. The legal storm was still coming. But something inside me had shifted permanently. Their fear no longer controlled me. Their anger no longer defined me. Their expectations no longer trapped me. I walked to my kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and opened my laptop. My attorney had replied. "Call me first thing in the morning. We'll move to the next phase." I exhaled slowly. The next phase. Not of their crisis, of my awakening. The next morning I woke with the uneasy sense that my phone had been ringing in my dreams. When I finally rolled over, the screen lit up with a relentless wall of missed calls, 41 in total. I didn't bother opening the texts. I knew what they would say: demands, guilt, panic, blame. Variations of the same 3 notes my family always played. Instead, I got dressed for work in silence. Gray slacks, a navy sweater, hair pulled back. I stared at myself in the mirror for a moment, surprised by the steadiness in my own eyes. I should have felt overwhelmed. A normal daughter would have been overwhelmed, but I wasn't normal, not to them. I had always been the reliable one, the fixer, the buffer, and now, stripped of that role, I felt lighter. At 9 sharp, I stepped into the office. The minute I set my bag down, my attorney called. "Ava," he said, "it's time. Time for what I asked, though I already knew. To proceed formally, the lender will expect a documented acknowledgement of breach. You do not need to take any action, but they will require statements from the borrowers." I huffed a laugh. "Good luck getting those." He hesitated. "Your family may try to drag you into the process. Don't let them. The responsibility lies entirely with the borrowers." "I know," I said quietly. "And Ava," he added, his voice dropping, "prepare yourself. They may escalate. When people lose control, they tend to lash out at the person who won't save them." I thanked him and hung up, feeling the truth of his warning settle in my chest. The day passed in a blur of meetings and spreadsheets. I was halfway through analyzing a data set on eviction rates when Mara walked into my office without knocking. She shut the door behind her, crossed her arms, and stared at me. "Okay," she said. "Tell me everything." I blinked. About what? She raised an eyebrow. About why you look like you've had 8 emotional breakthroughs and a nervous breakdown at the same time. I leaned back in my chair and let out a slow, exhausted sigh. The bank issued the acceleration notice. Her eyes widened. Already, wow. Damn. Yeah. She sank into the chair across from me. "How are your parents taking it?" My phone buzzed on the desk. Hard, as if to answer her question itself. "They're panicking," I said simply. "What did they expect?" she asked. "Honestly, they did it to themselves." "I know," I said, "but they don't." She snorted. "Of course not. People like that don't believe consequences exist until they land right on their doorstep." I laughed under my breath because she was right. People who never paid attention to the fine print always screamed the loudest when the fine print screamed back. Mara squeezed my shoulder once and left me to it. By 5, my nerves were beginning to prickle, not from fear but from anticipation. If my parents had received the official notice, they were probably assembling their excuses right now, preparing their ammunition, rewriting the narrative so I became the villain again. I wasn't wrong. When I pulled into my parking lot that evening, I spotted their car, the tan sedan with the dented bumper my father refused to fix. My stomach clenched, not with dread, but with sheer exhaustion. I stepped out of my car slowly. My father was standing by the front steps of my building, pacing like a caged animal. My mother sat on the stairs looking like she hadn't slept. Lily sat beside her, perched awkwardly as though she might spring up at any second. The moment my father saw me, he stormed forward. "What is wrong with you?" he shouted. I didn't flinch. "Keep your voice down." He didn't. "They sent the foreclosure timeline today," he said, waving a crumpled paper in my face. 6 days. 6 days until they initiate proceedings. 30 days, I corrected calmly. It's 6 days until they begin the process of scheduling. Not the foreclosure itself. He jabbed a finger at me. "Don't get smart with me. This is your fault." "No, I said it's not." My mother looked up, her eyes red. "Ava, please talk to them. Please fix this. We don't understand the paperwork or the legal stuff or the forms. You always did. You know how this works." I shook my head. "I'm not fixing this." Her face crumpled. "Why not?" "Because I wasn't sabotaging myself anymore. Because their emergencies no longer outranked my life. Because I was tired of being responsible for adults who refused to be responsible for themselves. But what I said was simpler. Because it's not mine to fix." Lily stood up abruptly, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Ava, I can't lose this house. I already filmed 3 videos. I told everyone I was moving in." "You can't let this happen." "I didn't let anything happen," I said gently. "You all acted without understanding the consequences." "But you knew," she said, voice cracking. "You knew and you didn't tell me I tried," I said. "You didn't listen." She let out a sob and covered her face. My father ripped the notice in half. "The bank said someone tipped them off. Someone triggered the review. If you had just paid, they never would have looked." "They would have looked eventually," I said quietly. "Once the deed transfer reached processing." He stepped closer. Too close. "Listen to me," he growled. "I won't let you ruin our lives." I lifted my chin. I'm not the one who ruined anything. He looked like he wanted to shake me. My mother reached for him, panicked. "Marcus, stop," but he yanked his arm away. "You think you're so clever," he spat. "You think you're powerful because you know how to read contracts. You're nothing without us. You hear me? Nothing." The words were so familiar they almost slid off me. He had used the same tone when I left for college, when I took my first professional job, when I refused to give him money for a failed business idea. I looked at him, not with anger, not even with hurt, but with an almost painful clarity. "Dad," I said softly. "I stopped being nothing the moment I stopped trying to earn your approval." His face froze. It was the only moment all day when he truly looked stunned. My mother stood then, voice trembling. "Ava, please, don't say things like that. This is a family matter." "No," I said. "This is a legal matter." "You made it that when you signed those forms." My father's voice broke. "We could lose everything." I nodded. "Yes." "You could." "And you're just going to watch it happen. I'm not intervening," I corrected. "That's different." They stared at me, 3 pairs of stunned, hurt, grieving eyes. Then Lily whispered the sentence that cut deeper than anything my parents said: "If you loved us, you'd fix it." And I felt something in me shatter, not because she said it, but because she believed it. Because to them, love equaled labor, love equaled payment, love equaled sacrifice. I swallowed hard. "I do love you," I whispered. "But I don't love what you expect from me." My father's jaw clenched so tightly I could hear his teeth grind. "This isn't over," he said. "We're going to fix this ourselves. And when we do, you'll regret what you did." I didn't respond. I simply stepped past them, walked up the stairs, unlocked my building door and slipped inside without looking back. My heart pounded as I reached my apartment, but it wasn't fear. It was relief. Inside, the quiet wrapped around me like a blanket. I set my bag down and collapsed on the couch, staring at the ceiling until my breathing slowed. They weren't done with me, not by a long shot. But I was done letting them dictate the terms of my life. My phone buzzed with a new message, this one from my attorney. "Let me know when they contact you again. Document everything. We're moving into phase 2. I closed my eyes, letting out a long, slow breath. Phase 2. Not of the mortgage crisis. Of the severing. I turned off my phone, curled under a blanket, and let the exhaustion finally catch up to me. But before sleep claimed me, one clear thought drifted through my mind like a promise. This was the last time my family would ever show up at my door uninvited. The last time they would corner me, the last time they would demand what they never earned. I was no longer the daughter who fixed things. I was becoming something else entirely. And they had no idea what that meant. I didn't turn my phone back on until late the next morning. For a few blissful hours, the world outside my apartment didn't exist. No demands, no panic spirals, no mother weeping into the receiver or father shouting accusations. Just silence, the kind that felt like oxygen after months of drowning. But peace never lasted long in my family. When the screen finally lit up, message after message burst onto it like an infection spreading across glass. 23 texts from Mom, 13 from Dad, 8 from Lily, 4 unknown numbers, likely extended family, and then the newest one, time-stamped 10:12 a.m. A message from a number I didn't recognize, but one glance at the tone told me everything I needed to know. "This is Pastor Reynolds. Your parents are deeply distressed. They tell me you have created a severe misunderstanding that threatens the family home and your sister's future. I urge you to come speak with them and make things right in the eyes of the Lord." I actually laughed out loud, a short, disbelieving sound that echoed through my quiet apartment. They had dragged the pastor into it. Not because they believed God was on their side, but because they believed community pressure might succeed where guilt and threats failed. Classic. I set the phone down and poured myself another cup of coffee, savoring the warmth between my palms. I had spent years letting their emotional emergencies root inside me like weeds. But now, something inside me had shifted so dramatically that even their manipulations seemed almost predictable. At noon, my attorney called. "Ava, he said we need to meet. Is something wrong?" "Not wrong," he said. "Just necessary." The lender responded. "They're moving ahead, and they want documentation from your family within the week. The burden is on them, but we should prepare for backlash." I sighed. "They're already escalating. I figured as much." We scheduled an afternoon meeting. As soon as I hung up, another call came through Mom. Again. I didn't answer. A voicemail popped up seconds later. Her voice trembled between desperation and outrage. "Ava, your father just spoke with a friend at the credit union. He says they've never seen a lender move this fast unless a family member directly requested the review. Did you do this to punish us? We deserve better from you. There it was. The shift. They weren't asking anymore. They were accusing. My father's voicemail came next, angrier, sharper, his words clipped. You have 30 minutes to call back. If you don't, I'm coming to your office. Don't test me. I paused mid-sip. He thought threats would work. They always had before. He never understood that fear only works on someone who doesn't know they have options. I texted Mara at work, going offline for a bit. If my parents show up, security needs to be notified. She replied instantly, already handled. Don't worry. My heart eased. At least there were people in my life who didn't view me as a utility. Around 3, I headed downtown for the meeting. My attorney Reed greeted me in the lobby, tall, composed, with silver hair and the kind of calm that made people confess things around him. He motioned me into a conference room. I read the lender's notice in full, he said, adjusting his glasses. This acceleration is airtight. They will not reverse it without extraordinary proof of error, and there is none. I exhaled slowly. What will happen next? I asked. Your parents will receive a certified letter tomorrow. Possibly today. They will panic harder. They may blame you even more. They may even call the lender directly and make matters worse. That sounded exactly like something my father would do, righteous anger wrapped around administrative incompetence. Reed continued. You need to protect yourself, legally and emotionally. I nodded. I already started documenting everything. Calls, messages, attempted confrontations. Good, he said. Now let's talk about something else. Something important. I leaned back, which is, I want you to consider that your parents may begin rewriting the narrative publicly. Family, church, anyone who will listen. Perhaps accusing you of causing the foreclosure. I blinked. They already started. Then we need to get ahead of them. He slid a folder toward me. Inside was a simple factual statement outlining the lender's findings, the unapproved deed transfer, and the legal obligations of the named borrowers. No emotion, Reed said. No blame. Just truth. It was so straightforward it almost startled me. You can send this to anyone who reaches out, he said, or who threatens your reputation. My chest tightened, a mix of gratitude and grief. No one had ever taught me that boundaries weren't attacks, only survival. We wrapped the meeting, and I stepped out into the crisp evening air, feeling colder inside than the temperature warranted. That was when my phone buzzed again. It was Lily. I debated letting it ring, but something in me, curiosity, maybe exhaustion, told me to answer this time. I pressed accept. Her voice was small, shaky. Ava, yes. Can we talk? She asked. Just us, not Mom, not Dad. I hesitated. What do you want to talk about? She inhaled shakily. I found something. My pulse ticked once. Found what? Something in Dad's office, she said. Something I don't think he meant for anyone to see. I stepped toward the building wall, shielding myself from the wind. What kind of something? She hesitated. Financial? About the lake house? About other things? A cold ripple slid down my spine. Of course, my parents' disaster would run deeper than one reckless signature. My father had a history of hiding mistakes, sometimes small, sometimes catastrophic. What did you find? I asked. I can't explain over the phone, she whispered. Will you meet me? Every instinct in me screamed, no, not yet, not alone. But another instinct, older, painful, shaped by years of being her older sister, whispered something else. She sounded scared, really scared. I was silent long enough that she spoke again. Ava, please. I didn't know any of this would happen. I didn't know what I was signing. But Dad, he knew more than he told us. More than he told you. My heartbeat quickened. Where are you? At the park near the community center, she said. The one we went to as kids. I'm by the benches. I exhaled. I'll come. Stay where you are. When I arrived, the sun was dipping behind the trees, casting long shadows. The swings creaked softly in the wind, and there on the far bench sat Lily, hunched over a manila folder. She looked up when she saw me. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes puffy. She held out the folder with trembling hands. "What is this?" I asked. "Just read it." Inside were printouts, mortgage statements, insurance documents, bank correspondence, and something much worse. 3 consecutive notices addressed to my father. Past due, final warning, risk of default. My stomach dropped. "These are from 6 months ago," I said. Lily nodded, wiping her cheek. "Dad wasn't paying anything. He was using the vacation fund to cover credit card debt. He told Mom he paid the mortgage, but he didn't." I flipped through the pages, each one more damning. "Lily," I whispered. "He was already behind." She took a shaky breath. "Yes, before I signed anything, before the dinner. He never told us. He only said giving me the house would stabilize the future." I didn't know what that meant. It meant he was drowning. It meant the transfer wasn't generosity, it was desperation wrapped in favoritism. Another paper slipped out, a bank notice addressed to both my parents, dated 3 weeks before the dinner. "Loan in jeopardy. Potential financial review pending." My father knew exactly what he was doing when he pushed the deed transfer. He knew the bank was circling. He knew they'd find the discrepancies eventually. He'd used Lily as a shield. And he'd assumed I, as always, would be the net. "You didn't know," I said softly. Lily shook her head. "I swear. Ava, I swear I never would have signed if I knew. I believed her. She wasn't malicious. She was naive. A child raised on the idea that someone else would always catch her. But this time my father hadn't protected her. He had put her directly in the line of fire." Lily sniffed hard. "So, what do we do now?" I closed the folder slowly, deliberately. "We don't do anything I said. This time I'm not fixing his mess." Her eyes widened in fear, but there was something else there too: respect, acceptance, maybe the first flicker of adulthood. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know I said, but this fear isn't mine to absorb anymore. It's theirs." She nodded slowly, tears falling again, but quietly this time. We sat there until the wind grew colder, until the swings stopped creaking, until the quiet of the park wrapped around us like a truth we could no longer deny. When I finally stood, Lily hugged herself tightly. "You're not abandoning us?" "No," I said gently, "but I'm not saving us either." She closed her eyes, letting those words sink in.